sew circles around past methods of making circular shapes. Stitching symmetrical circles is really quite simple. To inspire you to add circle motifs to home decor or quilting projects, Donna Fenske, Sewing with Nancy designer, is with us once again. Donna, you've become a stitching in circles expert.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you for having me on Sewing with Nancy and for the opportunity to share these creative techniques. This table runner features the basic circle stitching. Satin stitched and applique circle accents are ideal points to showcase.
Circles so simple, that's what's coming up next on Sewing with Nancy.
Sewing with Nancy, celebrating 30 years of sewing and quilting with Nancy Zieman, is made possible by Baby Lock, a complete line of sewing, quilting, and embroidery machines and sergers. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Madeira, specializing in embroidery, quilting, and special effects threads because creativity is never black and white. Koala Studios, fine sewing furniture custom built in America. Clover, makers of sewing, knitting, quilting, and embroidery products for over 25 years. Experience the Clover difference. Amazing Designs and Class A Needles.
To learn the basics of circle stitching, we'll start with just a satin stitch circle or an applique circle, and you'll be amazed how many different ways or applications there are for that simple sewing technique. We have 3 ways of making symmetrical circles. The low-tech way is to use a thumbtack and some masking tape and tape the thumbtack adjacent to the needle, and then the fabric we have it backed with a stabilizer, and you just tack it down. I'm just going to straight stitch around just to show you how fast you can sew a circle, just very, very quickly, and you don't even have to guide it. Now the thumbtack has its kind of limitations because it shifts sometimes a little bit, but it's a good first attempt. The other attachment that you can get that goes with your sewing machine, that's very high tech with metric information. You can slide it down. It screws to the bed of your machine with a screw, of course. And then here you can see a close-up of satin stitching. I have the machine set with the satin stitch, just completing a much larger circle. The third way is to use a tool. And Donna has the tool attached to her machine. It has little divots so that you can get the thumbtack in the right spot, whether metric or inches. And Donna, you can make big or small circles.
Right, you can make circles as small as 2 inches all the way up to 27.
So you made this little sample, and it really shows the versatility of sewing with circles. Contemporary or traditional, you can add circles to a lot of things.
And over here on my machine, what I have is I have the circle base of the tool attached, but prior to attaching it, we have a little template that comes with the information, and it aligns my needle with the tool. There's a little dash mark that lines up the template to the tool. The template or the tool base also has double-sided tape along these edges on the underside. It will then adhere to the bed of the machine. Then we also have inserted our tack, and also I have it at this moment covered with the crossbar. It has 2 types of tack covers, a firm one and a lighter tack cover. For today, I already had stitched a circle and started to trim it, and I also put a target sticker on the center of my applique. This enables me to reposition my applique after trimming.
So you just really put that on before you removed the fabric from your machine.
And then you can simply use the cover, and I'm going to be trimming the rest of the applique fabric away. So I'm just going to kind of bevel my scissors and trim the additional portions away. And now I'm simply going to then do my satin stitch. And again, it has a firm hold, and it will give me a really nice satin edge by using the tool itself.
So if you stitch it on first with just a straight stitch and then trim, as Donna said, by beveling her scissors, having on the same plane as the fabric, then when you set it for a satin stitch, what width do you have there, Donna?
Actually, I go fairly wide. I'm at about a 7.
Sure. And it covers the edges, makes sure it covers the edges very well. And your stitch length.
My stitch length is at a 0.4. And so it's a very tight stitch length because I want good coverage. And usually what I do too when the applique ends meet, I also kind of tie it off with my machine. I hit the tie off as well.
So you can see it's not difficult to sew in circles to get them symmetrical if you use one of the 3 techniques or tools that are available for your sewing machine. And you can overlay the stitchings, you can mix appliques into place. These are the basic premises of working with circles, and now we'll show you other creative ways that you can use quilting or embroidering or satin stitching, all with circles. Incorporate applique circles and a quilt-as-you-go technique to make supersized blocks for a bed quilt. Designed by Donna, this queen-size quilt features 13 fabric coordinates and gives you permission to go crazy for circles. This is a great design. Contemporary, fun, you can make it large. Donna, you have how many circles here for this queen-size quilt?
I have 25 circles, and the finished size I do believe is a 19-inch square. And each block has maybe a different number of appliques, anywhere from 5 to 3.
And what fun fabric combinations you have, and you wouldn't have to make blocks this big, you can make them smaller.
Right.
But what you need to consider is that no matter what tool you're working with, that you need to determine your sizes of your circles. The middle circle would be a 4-inch, and then the outer circle would be about 8 inches. So you're going to do some configuration, but it's kind of as you're stitching, you'll make these decisions, and Donna will show you that. So you're going to start off with a quilt-as-you-go technique, and that means you're going to embellish and quilt at the same time, one block at a time. And to do this, we have cut the top layer and the batting the size of your finished block, whether it's 19 or 9 or 6, whatever the case may be. And the backing fabric is cut 2 inches larger so that there's 1 inch on each edge of the block. We have fusible batting, so you could simply just fuse the layers. If you had sew-in batting, just pin the layers together, steam this together so that they stay. And we're going to be doing a lot of stitching. Let's do it one more time. A lot of stitching, so this fusible portion is a great idea.
And Nancy, also in the instruction book, we do have a fuse tack technique as well. So
great. We showed you how to make a basic applique. Now we're going to put it on steroids.
What I have here on this sample, it shows that I just finished sewing like an 8-inch circle. And what we do is we use kind of like, we call them target stickers. We put it over the tack because we're going to be reloading this block several times for all of the different appliques. We also have the target tack on the back, or target sticker on the back as well. So this one showcases that I have done a straight stitch and that I've also started to trim. Prior to trimming though, I do marking on my block and just make a little nip. So that enables me to maybe get my scissors in there to trim out the inner circle.
So you're going from a 7-inch circle down to a 6-inch, so that's where you put the little
right.
mark.
And what we're trying to achieve is all of these fabrics that we're trimming away that we can use as additional appliques for our other blocks. And they, again, have the little stickers on them as well.
Now, Donna, it's not a special sticker. You can just buy office supply stickers. You can use masking tape.
Right.
It's just a sticky substance.
Right, and on my machine right now, I also showcase that I am using just masking tape as my placement. And again, now I'm going to just finish doing the satin stitching. And when the satin stitches meet, I also like to kind of tie them off. They'll be really nice to have them tied off. And then I'm going to simply cut and reposition my tool. I'm at a size 7 circle, and I'm going to move down to a size 6. And Nancy will show you how that really works.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see with the fabric covering it, but there's the little divots in here. So you just kind of release this. has a little, stick them on the back side and you just slide it over to the number 6 and it gets in the divot again, and then you just stick it down and it will stay into place. So if you're using a different tool, just move that tack. And Donna, you've moved it and ready to sew the next applique.
Right, and now I've changed my machine back to a straight stitch because I just need to have that straight stitch to complete the circle. And we'll just speed it up a little bit. And the magic is, you know, the stitches line up perfectly.
Yes.
And what I had already started was just a little clip in my fabric that was there already. And I'm going to now take my scissors, and since I have a little opening, I simply bevel my scissors and start trimming, spinning the block, leaving it totally attached to the circle base tool. And this will give me a really nice clean finish for trimming because, again, I'm leaving it positioned and it gives me a really quick clean cut. And what I'm doing with all of these circles that I trim away, again, I save it as an applique component for another block. So I simply remove the tack.
And here are some of Donna's options that she can use for appliques. As you can see, it's kind of fun just to play. And you don't necessarily plan out your design in advance.
No, it's very spontaneous. I kind of do a visual audition as I go. And now, after I would have trimmed the center one, again, I would make sure that I would cover my tack and begin satin stitching. A lot of times, too, before I satin stitch, depending on your machine, you might want to do like a triple straight stitch zigzag. What that does is it kind of holds the fabric flat underneath.
You have a lot of layers there.
Right. And then the final stitch would be the applique, which is what I'm doing right now at this moment, is appliquing the center. And it will take a while for it to go around and be completed.
Well, we can just make believe. This is virtual. We've already stitched that. That's
Right.
the magic of television. You just
So then what I would do is I would simply audition some of my other cuts that I had already removed from previous appliques. I simply, again, remove my tack, load my circle in, and I would also have to reposition on the crossbar so to make it a smaller circle.
So again, as you're doing that, I just will show that you just move the divot, release the guide, the vertical positioning stays secure. You'd release it, get it in the divot, lock it, and then you can do the stitching again.
Right, and sometimes what I do is I test the circle cut to make sure that it will be complete. And again, I'm going to do a quick straight stitch and just show you the straight stitch process. And again, after it's sewn the complete circle, again I would trim the excess fabric off, and then I would also apply my satin stitching.
This is such a clever way of putting together a quilt with the circles, and Donna completed quilting the layers together just rather than satin stitching, just doing straight stitches around the perimeter around the area of this quilt block. Square up your quilt block, make sure it's nice and square. Meet the backing of the quilt blocks together and stitch along that 1-inch seam. Make sure it's nice and straight. And after you've done the stitching, then you're going to press under half of the seam allowance. Just turn the edge to the stitch seam and press, and I've kind of done that in advance. And then top stitch the layers together. This way you can quilt as you go. Now we have a blue backing fabric. On the finished quilt, it's a white backing fabric. So when that seam is brought to the front, it looks as part of the design. So it all depends what colors you choose. So you can go crazy with circles, making blocks, and making a quilt. Quilt a vintage pattern with an updated twist. What's different? Circles are stitched to perfection with a circle stitching tool. We'll show you how to create a circle that is an envelope, and it uniquely transforms into a reversible quilt. We're working with the quilt that Donna designed, and Donna, traditionally the orange peel design, which is in a quilt, is
Basically 2 colors.
right, and now we have 5 colors.
Right, and I just had this moment where this idea came, how to make a scrappy orange peel. And it's basically using a 4-patch.
And the block that you have, you've cut 5.5-inch squares.
Right, and the base block is 10 inches, and then again we created a 4-patch. And I pressed open all of the seams. And then we would go to the sewing machine and sew the circle.
And here you can see that I have the tack at the center section, or the intersection of the block, and I'm just sewing a 9-inch circle all the way around. You can make it really any size you'd like.
Now here we have a completed circle, and what I need to do is simply press it, and it's been partially pressed. But what I'm doing is I'm pressing all of the fabric to the interior, and I would do that on both sides all the way around the circle.
And the reason for that, it makes it easier when you're turning it right side out.
And the next step would be either to use a pinking rotary blade or a pinking shears and trim the complete circle about 1/4 of an inch away from the stitching. This pinking will make it easier for turning the circle as well.
It's a great way of grading, and so we've made kind of the same circle technique that we had before. And if you'd like a little batting in your quilt, what we can do is use a flannel. People who live in warmer climates, this is a great quilt. It's not so heavy.
And definitely have to pre-shrink the flannel.
Yeah.
And we're going to simply glue it in place on the seam line, and it gives us a really good reference point to line up the little points of the flannel. Also, what helps is if you use different colors, it would help to prevent the shading through a fabric.
Yeah, now, this is an envelope, but this envelope right now doesn't have a flap.
Right, right. And so what we're going to do is determine where that should be, and we basically fold back onto the solid side a position so that we have part of the 4-patch coming. So we'll determine that that area right there is where we...
So don't worry, this is going to be concealed. You don't have to worry about this. You just need an opening, and kind of near about 1 inch from the stitching line. Maybe it's kind of hard to make that first cut.
Right, right. And then it's very magical turning it. We sometimes use a turning tool. Once it's partially turned...
I mean, that would be my cue to find a turning tool? I think so. Here we go.
So once it's partially turned, this really helps to bring out the seams. And since they were pressed ahead of time, it makes it really easy to get a nice, really crisp edge.
Okay, so once more, I'll just run this edge around here. So then you just do a little pressing.
Right.
You can see it's
And then we have some that are already pressed
amazing,
here.
already pressed. Then that from the wrong side, you can see some stitching, or really it's the background side, and Donna, you stitched in the ditch.
We stitched in the ditch. That helps secure also the flannel inside. Also, it gives us a point of reference for marking our seam allowances.
So the last marking step is to connect the outer edges to make it into a square.
Correct.
And you
'cause
do
the orange peel will turn into a square versus a circle.
Now, here's how it goes together. You lay out the designs so that you have matching fabric colors. Meet right sides together, and then pin along this box. Can you see the box that's there, or the marking? So I'm just going to pin this area, and you would sew along the straight line. Whoop, one more pin.
And once you have them pinned, then we would go to the sewing machine and do a straight stitch right on that marking.
This has been stitched and then top stitched.
Right, and then what we would do is make row after row and then start attaching the rows.
And after you attach the rows, you have a quilt that has the traditional orange peel in a very non-traditional way. When sewing or quilting for a community service project, you can find projects to make that are large or small. Today's Nancy's Corner guest will show us that something very small, a 6-inch or less tall doll, is very meaningful to women in domestic abuse shelters. Plus, it gives us hints on how we can help others. Please welcome Brenda Hutchings, who joins us via Skype. Nice to see you, Brenda. Hi.
Nice to see you too.
Brenda, you have such a fascinating story to tell about the Comfort Doll Project. Tell us how it started.
The Comfort Doll Project started with Pat Winters in 2007. She's a crazy quilter, and she sent out dolls to domestic abuse shelters, and online crafters sent dolls to her, and she would then send them out adhering a tag to them. She had to close the project, and I saw it online, let's see, in January of 2010. She closed in December of 2009. And I saw it online, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should do this.
You can do it,
and then
right?
when I saw where her last donation went to in Lusk, Wyoming, I'm like, okay, I'm in. My brother lives there. Let's do it.
And these dolls can be any size, any shape, but the size is important.
Really, the size is important, and actually you can't go too small. What comes across is the love and the care that each person puts into it. And the reason for the size is that we want these people, the people receiving them, to be able to carry them around with them, stick them in their purse, and be able to get that tactile feeling, that comfort from holding onto this doll.
Now, you have a pattern on your website and that you can make these cute little dolls, and our viewers can see that now. They can be made very simply. And tell us the couple sizes on your site, correct?
Okay. On the site, we have a pattern from Sew News that Lucy Blair designed. And you can follow that. You can reduce the pattern, just put it on a copy machine and take a reduction of, say, 70%, and that'll just size everything down for you. Also, I have a couple other patterns and hope to add more patterns as I go to give variety so people have more to choose from.
We have an image of a really artsy doll. That's very clever and very adult-like. And I mean, for a woman to feel comfort, I think it's important that it isn't looking especially childlike here. This is a fun doll.
Right.
And now people can send the dolls to you, but you have another suggestion for us. Tell us about that.
Really, what would be great is local. This is all about humans reaching out to other humans, community to their own community. So if you have a local shelter, you have a sewing group, or just yourself, if you'd like to make 12 dolls, 10 dolls, 3 dolls, whatever you'd like to do, and just take them to your local shelter. They would love them. And so to community, giving back within your own community would be great.
Because you mentioned to me the other day that the postage, by the time they send the postage to you, you'd rather have them donate money to the community shelter in their area.
Right. The postage is outrageous, and and I understand, because it's wonderful to see them coming into me, because you feel like you're not. It helps the person making the doll to feel like they're part of something really big, and yeah, I'm happy to take them and pass them on. Also on my site, they'll have a card that you can copy then, and feel free to use it and attach to your dolls and take them to your local shelter.
Yeah, it talks about the Comfort Doll and what the purpose of this is. Well, Brenda, thank you for picking up the doll project and carrying forth. You've almost had 2,000 dolls made and distributed. It's exciting.
Yeah, we got that this year. It was wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. And if you'd like more information on the doll project, you'll know that all things Sewing with Nancy are on our website at nancyzieman.com. You'll also be able to read our blog online and sign up for social media. And at the nancyzeman.com, you'll be able to go to Nancy's Corner. And at Nancy's Corner, all our guests are listed there. So you can find their website, find out more how you can become involved sewing and quilting by giving away your talents and enjoying the process as well. Well, this program of Circles So Simple ends up our 30th anniversary season on Sewing with Nancy. I thank you for joining us this season. Thank you to my special guest, Donna Fenske, for joining me on this program. And as I say with every program, thank you for joining me. Bye for now.
Nancy's Circles So Simple tool and book can be used to create all the projects in this program. The tool and full-colored book are $29.95 plus shipping and handling. To order the tool and book, call 800-336-8373 or visit our website at sewingwithnancy.com/2626. Order item number NZCSS. Circles So Simple. Credit card orders only. To pay by check or money order, call the number on the screen for details. Visit Nancy's website at nancyzeman.com to see additional episodes, Nancy's blog, and more. Sewing with Nancy, celebrating 30 years of sewing and quilting with Nancy Zeman, has been brought to you by Baby Lock, Madeira Threads, Koala Studios, Clover, Amazing Designs and Class A Needles. Closed captioning funding provided by Oliso. Sewing with Nancy is a co-production of Nancy Zeman Productions and Wisconsin Public Television.